Hey everyone, welcome to All Things Iceland. It's Jules and I am van lifing it up in Iceland. I'm actually at a campsite right now filming this, and I've been traveling around different parts of the country. I have adventures that I will be showcasing via video on YouTube about where I've gone, some amazingly beautiful places in Iceland. So definitely keep a lookout for that. But in this video, I wanted to share some of the pros and cons of renting a camper van in this country. Now, granted, this might apply to some other camper van stuff in other places, but I tried to make it as specific to Iceland as possible because there are unique aspects to it for sure. And this will help you to figure out if renting a camper van is right for you, for your trip, or maybe you want to go another route. Personally, I think being in a camper van is a lot of fun, and you'll definitely see why. All right, I'm gonna start off with the pros of renting a camper van in Iceland, and the number one, in my opinion, is saving money. While camper vans still here in comparison to where you are, the rental of them might be a little bit higher. In Iceland, renting a camper van can definitely save you a lot of money, especially during the summertime. So hotel prices rise really high, Airbnbs, everything, every type of accommodation goes up a lot during the summer. Now granted, of course, in the off-peak season it's less, but that also means the camper van costs us less. And with the camper van, not only do you have your accommodation, you also have transportation, and depending on what model van you get, you can have, you know, your food station in the back there. I've got electric cooler, a sink, I even have a heater. So it could really feel like your own little apartment, your only moving apartment on the road, which just saves you a decent amount of money. Speaking of which, for all those who want to save even more money on your camper van rental, I partner with Go Campers for this video, and if you use my code Iceland7, you could save 7% on your camper rental with them, so on the entire cost, which is a good chunk of change for sure. And in addition to that, you get 2 free duvets with that code. So utilize that code, save some money, get those duvets, and then you don't have to worry about packing duvets because that can take up a decent amount of space in your luggage. I'm sure there are other important things you'd rather use that space for. Of course, depending on the model of the van that you get, the price will change, but the smallest model is pretty inexpensive. The largest one being more expensive, but that fits like 5 people. I would say really more like 4 big adults and a child. That's just my opinion. But just know that, you know, you can offset the cost if you have more people who are paying into it. And then for the smaller one, if you're a single individual, or even if you're in the one that I'm in right now, which is for 2 people, and it is great for 2 people, mind you, I've tested that out. It's a great saver in terms of money. The second pro, in my opinion, is the flexibility that you have. So if you have accommodations already set for a specific night, and it's in one area, but maybe you wanted to go check out some other things, with a camper van, you could change up your itinerary on the go and just be like, you know what? We're not gonna camp there tonight. We're gonna camp this other place because we decided maybe to stop earlier or to go a little bit later into the evening. And if you're coming in summer specifically, we have 24-hour days. I have hiked at midnight, I've hiked late in the evening, and it's amazing that it's so bright outside. So you really have a lot of flexibility, especially during the summertime, to change up your schedule. And then during the winter, when we don't, there's music and stuff going on. Mind you, I'm at a campsite, so there's other like music and whatever happening. And of course, even in the winter, that helps too because we have shorter days. So again, on the fly, you can change up what you plan to do for that day and not feel like you're obligated to go stay in one hotel, in this specific hotel where you've already have reservations or paid for it. Now granted, I don't have anything against hotels, love them, Airbnbs, all of that. I do find them to be great as well, but I do think that it's a great pro to be able to change up specific locations. Like I've done that a few times, even just recently, where I've thought about camping in one spot, but I was like, you know what? I'm exhausted. I'm going to camp in this specific town, or I'm gonna go to the next town where I know they have some facilities that I'm looking for. Brings me to my next point regarding campsites in Iceland. It's a huge pro because there are so many of them, and there's a site actually that's great called Tjalta.is, and I of course have a link to it in the description, where you can find a directory of the different campsites in the country and what they offer. So you can even toggle like, oh, I want a campsite that has showers. I want one specifically in the South Coast area. I want one that has laundry. I want, you know, hot water, electricity meaning plugging in your van. You won't need that for these types of camper vans, but I'm just kind of giving you the gist of the fact that this website is so helpful. The fact that it's called tjalda, which is an Icelandic word, is not exactly helpful for people who would want to find this resource who don't speak Icelandic, but now you at least know about it from watching this video, so that's helpful, and you could utilize it for planning your trip or just seeing what sites are available. And because so many campsites are available, especially in the summertime in Iceland, you really can change it up. Like I mentioned, this flexibility, and it's nice to just know that you can kind of tailor your trip around, oh, maybe after 3 or 4 days we'll do laundry, so we're gonna camp at this site. Or actually there's different campsites that have laundry, so we don't have to worry about that in the area in which we're gonna be in for your specific trip. It is super helpful, and I definitely recommend checking it out. On top of that, some of the campsites have epic facilities or amenities, whatever you want to call them. I went to a campsite in the West Fjords that had the most gorgeous pool I've ever seen. I just wanted to stay there. They're actually growing fruits in this greenhouse while you're swimming in the pool or in the hot tub, and outside they have a geothermal area. And then there was another one that just had really beautiful, clean amenities or like gorgeous nature. And there's so many different aspects to different campsites in Iceland that it's really fun to explore them. There's even some where you can camp near waterfalls and all these things. So a variety of campsites even adds to your adventures. And I'll even say that that one campsite I went to, when I was driving away from it, I ended up seeing whales in the ocean, and as I was leaving, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm coming back here. Like, this is amazing. Things like that, you know, can't be planned, and of course, don't expect that this will definitely happen, but at least it's possible. On top of that, some campsites also have guest houses. So if there's a time when you want to take a break from being in a camper van and being in a guest house, you can book that, but you have to book it in advance especially in summertime. And I'm always gonna say especially in summertime because this is the asterisk in terms of camping in Iceland, because it's such a busy time. Icelanders are out camping, foreigners who are visiting are out camping, foreigners who live here like myself are out camping. So there's a lot of different people who are occupying these sites, whether it's the guest houses or the campsites themselves. The next pro to renting a camper van in Iceland is the variety of camper vans available. As I had mentioned, Go Campers has a ton of them, from, you know, a smaller sort of van to this huge one that I call Big Bertha, to the ones for 4x4. And for all of you out there, including myself, who are not so great at driving manual cars, automatic is available. So don't worry, you have the ability to use automatic. And those do go pretty quickly just because of the amount of people who are tourists who are visiting and utilizing them. I always recommend, if you're going to rent a camper van, make sure that you get it pretty early, maybe even look like up to 6 months in advance, just because they're going like hotcakes. Ever since things have eased up with the pandemic, people have been coming to Iceland in droves, but not everywhere. Not everywhere, and I showcase that actually in my video adventures camper vanning around the country. So definitely make sure you're subscribed and keeping an eye out for those videos, because I went to some epic places and sometimes I was one of the only people there, if not the only person there at the time that I happened to show up. Another pro is that you can drive your camper van pretty much everywhere in Iceland. Now granted, there are F roads, which are mountain roads. They're just labeled F roads, and they literally in Icelandic mean mountain roads, because they are for going into the highlands. You cannot take a camper van that is not insured, meaning it's not a 4x4 and it's not insured for those roads. But the ring road that goes all around the country, and in the West Fjords, in the East Fjords, wherever there's like these main roads, you can go there. You can drive there with a camper van. I've driven on some interesting, you know, a little rough gravel roads, but this camper van did it like a champ. It was amazing. Granted, I might have had to go a little bit slower, but it was great, and I had no issues, and the handling of the camper van, everything has been so fantastic, and I've just was really pleasantly surprised on some of the rougher gravel roads that are still part of, you know, under the insurance of this car. It was able to handle it. So don't be afraid about, you know, whether or not it can handle the different roads. It definitely can. And in the wintertime, the companies like Go Campers, they put on studded tires on the cars to give them better grip. So if it's icy out, of course, you know, go slower if it's really icy, but it still grips the road better. And it gives you the opportunity to be able to see so much of this amazing country. So just know that a huge pro is you have access to so much in Iceland, on top of the fact that, you know, you're basically riding around in your accommodations as well. There's a lot that you can do, like having a lovely, you know, camper van picnic if the weather is not as beautiful outside, or it is and you just have everything with you that, you know, you want to eat because you have like your little electric fridge and everything. So I've loved it. I've stopped by the ocean to have lunch, just like looking out the window if it was a little bit windy or whatever else. And and of course, eaten outside with a chair that I have and a table that I got from Go Campers. And that was really fun too when it was a not so windy or rainy day. And my last pro on the list is that the camper vans come equipped with utensils like knives, forks, spoons, pots, pans, soap, dish rag, for a drying rag, a whisk, a can opener, like things like this that, you know, would be staples in your kitchen. Now granted, it won't have all the different things, bowls, cups, a portable stove, and it normally has gas in it. You can usually just check it when they showcase the van to you and kind of give you a little bit of a tour. They'll show you if it has gas, and if not, sometimes you can buy one right there or go to the grocery store, get a can of gas. Super easy to utilize. In one of my videos about that, about traveling, I showcase how to utilize the portable gas stove. Like in Iceland, it's not common to have gas stoves and more like electric. It was really fun for me to utilize because I grew up like in New York with gas stoves, so it's fun to like turn it on and see the flame. It's like a little pyro in me or something. And pretty much all the basics that you would need, plus some extras that I think are great. So if, like I mentioned, you have a camper van like this one, which is the Go Light, it says it's for 3 people. I say 2 adults. If you're maybe on the smaller stature, like petite size, and like just smaller in general, then maybe 3 people, but 2 adults and a kid for sure in here could work great. I've only done it with 2 adults, so, but by myself, it's even more amazing. Because I can really spread out all my things, which I'm pretty good at, I've noticed. It's something that, you know, camper van life, it can be great if you don't feel like you're inconveniencing the other person, you know, such is life. Including the variety of camper vans, some of them have heaters. I personally like to have one with a heater. This one does. And on top of having the heater, it also has the ability for you to plug in and charge things via USB when the car is off. So that little electric port is connected to the same battery as the heater. Both of them run amazingly well and will charge your phone, your watch, any other equipment that you have that utilizes USB charging. And that's in this Go Light one that I can speak for specifically that I know has it. Every van is a little bit different. You can check out the, you know, different types of listings on Go Camper's website as to what they include. I would recommend having a heater, personally speaking. Now granted, with 2 people, it could be a different story where having a heater might not be necessary, but if you're a single individual, I feel like having a heater is a game changer. It makes a huge difference for me personally. Summer in Iceland is lovely, but it's cooler than most people's idea of summer. So we're talking about 50, 60 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, and then that can lower in the evening. Now let's get on to the cons of having a camper van in Iceland. So, of course, like I mentioned, there are a large variety of camping sites, but not all camping sites are created equal, okay? Some of them might not be as well cleaned as others. Some of them might not have the same amount of facilities or amenities, so not all of them have showers, for instance. What some of them do that don't have showers is they partner with the pool that's nearby, and they usually give you like a discount or something with your ticket, or maybe even access to the pool with your ticket when you're buying a night's camping stay, but not all the time. So just be aware of that. I like to pick places that do have showers, and then the places that do have showers, not all of them, but some of them, might charge you additionally on top of what you've already paid for camping the night for the shower. So there's not like this standardized, like, this is the amount that you pay everywhere you go in Iceland and this is what you get. It literally depends on who is running the campsite and what they decided. And then in some areas, you know, it might be that you have a shower and you could fully use it however you want. There is no like money that you have to put in for paying for time. Like I've been to a campsite where you had to pay 100 kronor for 2 minutes in a shower. So you have to keep popping in coins. This is like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to turn the shower on, I want to use it, and I want to turn it off. Like, that's just me personally. Granted, where you end up staying, you know, knowing about this beforehand does make a huge difference. So like I mentioned, checking out that Chalta site and just getting a better idea of what's available or what to expect at least will manage your expectations. But it can for sure feel like a con if you get somewhere you're just like, oh my god, this is like the rules for this campsite or not what I like, or the facilities are not meeting my expectations. Next up, one of the cons that gets me every time, because I always need to do this for some reason no matter where I am, is I end up getting up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. And it's a big con to have to get out of your cozy bed into the chillier air to run to a building to use the bathroom. Now, okay, it is not as expensive at all as renting a hotel room or maybe an Airbnb, especially in summertime. But man, it's a little smack of cold, you know, it's not terribly cold, but if it's winter camping, then it is going to be. But it could just be a little less comfortable, I'll say, to have to do that. So it's not my favorite, for sure. Just something to keep in mind. I try not to drink too much water before I go to bed, but it still seems like my body wakes me up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and it's like, bathroom time, and I'm like, no! I don't want to leave the van. Now, I talked about cost in the pros of renting a camper van in Iceland, or utilizing one in Iceland, and one of the cons when it comes to cost is having to pay extra for insurance. Now, you already get pretty good insurance when you're, for instance, utilizing Go Campers, but adding on insurance that will make a big difference for you, especially those when it comes to like the gravel insurance, whatever else, it adds up a little bit. I mean, obviously it depends on how much you're going to be utilizing the van, meaning how many days you're renting it. These are important things because if you crack the windshield, for instance, because of a rock hit your car, you don't want to have to pay out of pocket for that. It's good to be able to have that insurance. One thing I'll say though is if you have a credit card that covers insurance like that, I would check that first before buying insurance with the camper van company, but I don't believe that and the credit cards cover insurance like sand and ash. So that's something that's pretty unique to Iceland, and that is a good one to have because it can happen where you end up getting pretty significant damage to the car if you're caught in a windstorm or something like that, and it ends up like ripping some paint off the car or like dents or whatever on the car. Just something to keep in mind. It's not the most fun thing to have to think about, but it's better to be safe than sorry, at least in my opinion. Next up regarding cons when it comes to having a camper van in Iceland is the weather is really variable. Now, I've been super fortunate to have some sunny, lovely weather for the majority of my time, specifically in the West Fjords here. In the East, it was really different. There was a whole lot of fog a lot of the time, and that can happen, but weather, when I'd mentioned like having to get out of the van, if it's like really windy, if it's cold, and especially if you don't have a heater, whew, that cannot be fun. And if your accommodations are in your van, right, like all of this can start to really feel a little bit like intense because if it's a super windy night and it's like shaking the van, you know, this is where you sleep. For some people, maybe that will be comforting. Maybe they like hearing rain hitting down on, you know, the roof or something. I don't mind the rain part. The intense wind sometimes can be a little jarring, especially if you're not used to it, but it all adds to the adventure at least. You know, this is my way of spinning things to be like, it's all part of the adventure in Iceland. But it can feel like a con to some people. And then of course having to get out of the van to, like I said, use the bathroom. Finding bathrooms, oh man, that's a next con would be the fact that it's not like bathrooms are everywhere, but this is a con for everybody, whether you're driving in Iceland or not, whether you're driving just a regular car or you're in a camper van, you know, trying to wait if you're out in like the sticks and it's not until the next gas station is quite far away. Still, weather. It can be a con. It can also be an amazing pro because when the weather's good here, it's really hard to beat. My next con is that This is an enclosed space, and especially if you end up sharing it with somebody else or multiple other people, it can start to feel a little small, right? Like, it will just, not that the walls are going to be closing in on you, but it can feel a little bit cramped. And if the weather happens to not be that great and you're having to spend more time in the van than maybe you had anticipated or wanted, storing stuff, there's a lot of great storage space in these vans, which is great. But the smaller the van, the less the storage space, of course. And then, for instance, like converting the bed into a table. So I'm in a van where you can convert this whole bed area. It will stay, the seats on the side will stay, but then the table itself will be in the middle. When you're tired and you have to convert that into your bed, things do feel smaller. I'm just gonna say it. Like, you're just like, oh, I'm tired, don't want to do this. And yeah, that part can be a little bit challenging. Of course, still all part of the adventure, but it's van life, right? Like, there are compromises that you make in order to have the flexibility of utilizing this car. However, it's still a con in my experience, especially if you're gonna be in the van for more than 5 or 6 days. Another con is that not all campsites in Iceland are open year-round. So like I mentioned, summertime is prime time. All the campsites are open unless they're under some type of renovation, and they're going, you know, you can arrive around the clock for I think almost all of them, and you don't necessarily need a reservation in most places. Some places in the south, it might be a little bit more popular than others, but usually you're fine. The whole point is, though, checking depending on the season that you're coming. If you're coming from like June through September, you're fine. But all other months, those are pretty much considered winter camping. So definitely check that website, chalta, like I mentioned, .is, and just to see, you know, open year round. You can use that toggle to search for campsites so that you know where you can go. Now, granted, this kind of limits you a little bit in terms of, you know, where you have to end up for that night. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of campsites in Iceland, but they're for sure open during the summer, whereas in winter, it's not feasible for all of them to be open because not that many people are winter camping. Winter gets intense here. However, it can be a really fun experience. I have done it. I did it for 2 weeks. This was more on the milder side of winter. It was May 1st to May 15th last year, but I loved it. There were times it was a little intense, but I really loved it. I'm planning on doing an actual winter camping, like hardcore winter ice, snow stuff this winter. So, you know, keep your eye out for that. I'll let you know how that experience goes for sure on this channel. But I think it's really helpful for people to know that campsites in Iceland become more limited as the season changes, and the weather, of course, with that season of winter gets more intense. If you found this video helpful, definitely give it a thumbs up and share it with somebody who you think would find it useful when it comes to renting a camper van in Iceland, some pros and cons that you can weigh to figure out if this would help them or yourself if you're planning to do this. And also remember to use my code Iceland7 with Go Campers in order to save 7% and get 2 free duvets with your rental. I personally love the Go Light camper, like I'd mentioned, whether it's for 1 person or 2. I've utilized this type of van multiple times, and I'm always really happy with not only like the driving of the van, it's automatic, but also just like the space. It feels really nice and spacious. Thanks again to Go Campers for partnering with me for this video. I have so many adventures coming up to share with you. I'm excited to showcase the places that I've been going to this summer because it's been epic. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.